Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a heated encounter in a phone retail store. A customer, convinced she paid for a repair, clashes with the employee who insists she only paid for an assessment. Tensions rise as accusations fly, revealing the complexities of customer service and communication. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. My daughter works for news company, and she's going to investigate you. Context: I work in a phone retail/repair store. This little tale happened in my third week of starting at the company, and since coming in again, she's always been really polite to me and my colleagues. Customer comes in with a damaged phone. The LCD is cracked and isn't showing a display. We tell her the cost to fix it, $210, and the length of time, and ask if she has insurance. She says yes she does, so I inform her if she pays for the insurance assessment, $66, we're able to inspect the phone and her insurance will reimburse her for the assessment and pay for the repair or send her a new one, depending on what she's paying for. She thinks that's a great idea, so I tell her she has to pay up front for the assessment and it'll take 2 hours. That's all good, so we go ahead. Fast forward 2 hours later, customer's back wanting to pick up her phone. Me: hey, so they opened it and found that it's just the screen that's damaged, so it's a total of $210. If you take this insurance form to whoever you're with, they'll reimburse you for this receipt and you can go from there. Customer scowls and picks her phone up. It's still not working? Me: no, they've only done an assessment on the phone, not a repair as we originally discussed. Customer: but I paid for the repair and my screen is still broken. Me: no, you paid for the insurance assessment. Remember we discussed your options and you wanted to get your insurance company to cover it? Customer: yes, I'm not an idiot. I paid for it to get fixed. Me: no, you paid for the assessment. You take this paper to the insurance company or email it to them and they will send through money to fix it for you, but at this time you haven't paid the money to fix it. Customer: no, I paid for the repair. Me: no, you didn't. Points to receipt. This says insurance assessment. Points to assessment booking copy. This says you wanted to get an insurance assessment. You signed for it. Customer: I signed for it to get fixed. What did I pay the $66 for that? Me: the $66 fee covers labor for the technicians to open the phone up and look at it. The insurance company will reimburse you though. You just need to send them this paperwork. Customer: why isn't my phone fixed? This is ridiculous service. You're ripping me off and stealing my money. I'm a pensioner, you know. Me: it isn't fixed because you didn't pay for it to get fixed. You have to go to your insurance company to get them to pay for it to get fixed, or you can pay us $210 and we can fix it. Theft is a serious claim, and I'd advise you go to the proper authorities if you think this is theft. Customer: I'm going to get my daughter to investigate this. She's with news company, and she would love to investigate you. Points finger at me. Me: that's fine. Here's your paperwork. Email it off to your insurance company, and they'll be able to help you out with the repair. Customer: that's fine. What is this? I want your name written down so she knows who to come after. Me: sure, it's first name. Customer: and last name? Me: no, I will not give you my last name. Customer: you have to. Me: I do not, and I will not. Take this to your insurance company. I'm no longer going to serve you. Have a good day. I'll look forward to the investigation. I really wish there was an investigation into me. I would have loved for some poor news crew coming and seeing me and asking me why I stole this lady's $66 and put it into my company's pocket. I love it when they get shocked at how calm you are when they make dumb threats. I'm sorry, I haven't done anything wrong, so your threat doesn't bother me. And our second story. Organized leaving gifts for coworker I knew she wouldn't like. I used to work in a microbiology lab in a hospital. We had a big staff, lots of people coming and going, and the managerial staff were honestly not very good. Most of them had been promoted due to seniority of lab experience and qualifications, and very few had any management training whatsoever. A big issue I had with management was that they'd arrange collections for coworkers selectively. Usually they'd only remember to do it for managerial staff, but there was an expectation for staff on every level to chip in. So I took it upon myself to organize the forgotten collections, leaving presents, significant birthdays, and collections for new parents, for members of staff at every level, not just the ones who were chummy with the heads of department. This colleague, I'll call her Linda, was an older woman with a lifetime of experience working for a well-known travel agency that had recently shut most of its branches nationwide. Linda resented being trained by younger staff, even though she had no clue about anything remotely scientific. She was lazy and would refuse to do tasks she found boring, even if they were essential for lab maintenance. But worst of all, she was a bully. She particularly enjoyed picking on an autistic colleague and anyone who seemed vulnerable. This culminated in her trying to make Sarah jump as a prank after she learned Sarah was particularly jumpy and prone to panic attacks when triggered. We never disclosed this, but it was due to her past in an abusive relationship. Linda thought that people who were triggered were snowflakes and woke. On a particularly busy day, Linda jumped suddenly at Sarah, who responded in flight or fight mode and punched Linda in the face, breaking her glasses and busting her nose. Naturally, Linda couldn't handle the humiliation and the dirty looks she received after that. Everyone was unanimously supportive of Sarah. She handed in her notice and found a job as a carer. I'd spent a lot of time training her and decided to do a collection for her, as I did for everyone, and I did feel kind of bad for her, even though she was dreadful. While I'd been training her, she'd told me a lot of her personal gripes. She didn't like chocolates with raisins or nuts in. She didn't like books as gifts, homework. She didn't like when people bought her bathing products, intimate, inappropriate, presumptive, and insulting, and she thought candles were for hippies. To be fair, I think she was making a joke about some of these, but she was also very rude about hippies around a Jamaican colleague who wore dreadlocks. I got a lackluster collection for her, and we got her a leaving card signed by everyone in the department, including Sarah, some fancy chocolate-covered fruit, a gorgeous copy of Wuthering Heights, my least favorite book at school, re-gifted bath bombs, and incense sticks with a wooden holder tray. Honestly, she was beaming when she was given them, and she seemed genuinely touched. I hope she's happy now, and who knows, maybe she's an excellent care worker. I'm not sure if this counts as petty revenge, but I still feel wicked when I think about it. A person who thinks people with past trauma are snowflakes, picks on autistic people, and thinks it's funny to trigger other people, went on to be a carer? That's absolutely appalling to think about. And our next story. I want it on my card. Oh, wait. As a cashier, I process several refunds a day. I generally get some sketchy ones and some normal ones. There was one I processed fairly recently that was beyond sketchy. Let me explain something first, though. The company I work for processes returns by scanning a barcode that comes printed on the bottom of every receipt. We scan the barcode, then the item. If it matches up with the receipt, and input the return price of said item. After the return is finished, you may purchase other items in exchange or get the negative amount back in whatever way you paid with. Except checks. That's another story. Now, this is what's really confusing. If you return an item at a different store in exchange for another item at that same store, but you go to an entirely different store to return that exchanged item, you're stacking returns. The money coming back on that second return will go on a gift card instead of what you paid with in the first exchange. Why the registers do it this way, I'll never know. If you know, please enlighten me. Anyway, I had a guy give me a receipt from another store with a returned wheelchair on the top for $149.99. In exchange for this wheelchair, he bought a walker worth $129.99. Mind you, this exchange took place at an entirely different store. So he wanted to return the walker he just bought in an exchange. I said okay and processed it. As I mentioned earlier, whenever items are double stacked like this in a return, the difference will go back on a gift card. He went into a hissy fit, saying, "Oh, my wife will kill me if I bring back a gift card. Can't you just give me cash or just put the difference back on my debit card?" I sighed and told him, "No, sir, we can't. The way these transactions are set up, whenever returns are double stacked like this, the register forces us to put the difference back on a gift card, regardless of what you used to pay before." He pulled the classic line, "Let me speak to your manager." I called a manager over and they were dumbfounded. They'd never heard of stacked returns before and tried voiding the whole transaction. The manager processed the entire thing the same way I did and didn't understand why the register did what it did. This guy kept insisting we just put the difference back on his card. We kept saying no, and he was getting angrier and sweatier. As soon as the manager mentioned that he could use the gift card at any of our other branches, he went, "Oh, I can? Cool. That works out then." He then walks away with the gift card in hand and acting satisfied. I'm sorry, what? A manager mentioned something that should probably be common knowledge based on how much he shops here. The only thing that can satisfy him is a manager's decision? I wanted to punch a wall after that encounter. I'm more worried about the manager not understanding what you were talking about for the return. How? How does one get into that position without knowing how returns work within the company? That's like day 2 of training. And our last story. Neighbor trying to steal my land. When my wife and I moved into our New Jersey house in September 2013, we were excited to make it our own. However, we quickly ran into an unexpected issue with our next-door neighbors. After getting our property surveyed, we discovered that our backyard fence was 3 feet short of the boundary. We wanted to install a new fence to reclaim that space, but our neighbors, who'd been there for 17 years, had other plans. The neighbor, a lawyer, sent us a letter as soon as they heard about our plans. They demanded to see our survey and claimed that the land was theirs because they'd been maintaining it since they moved in. They also asserted that the fence had been there for over 34 years, and they even said that a previous owner and the other neighbors could back them up on this. We were pretty taken aback and decided to look into New Jersey's adverse possession laws, which require 20 years of continuous, open, notorious, exclusive, and adverse use of the property. Although our neighbors had only lived there for 17 years, they argued that the fence and their use of the land predated their ownership. So we hired a lawyer and provided our survey, which clearly showed the property lines. Our lawyer advised us that the neighbors might have a case for adverse possession due to the long-term presence and use of the fence. However, the fact that they had only been there for 17 years was in our favor. Our lawyer sent a formal response to our neighbors outlining our evidence and challenging their adverse possession claim. We requested that they either provide their own survey or cease their claim to our property. After some tense weeks of back and forth, our neighbors finally agreed to a meeting with both of our lawyers present. We laid out all our evidence, and they couldn't substantiate their claim beyond their 17 years of residence. It became clear that their argument hinged on the previous owner's use, which didn't hold up against our documented property lines and the new survey. In the end, we reached an agreement. They agreed to acknowledge the correct property boundary, and we offered to split the cost of a new fence. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.